So I just ordered this Athearn Genesis Caboose. It has lights and sound. I've gone ahead and added lights to the ends because this is not the model that has that, but I will post what the model number is in case you're interested in looking for one. I've got a decimal meter here because the speaker that's in it, I had this model once before, okay, and I changed the speaker out, but I don't think it made a big difference. So this decimal meter, while it's still working, it looks like it is now. I'm taking a reading the way it is from the factory, and what I'm going to do is blow the whistle. Okay, so it looks about, what, 78, 79? 79. And then what I want to do is take a reading after I open. I'm going to put some holes or a slot in the bottom to let the sound out. I've already had the top part off and tested it, and it was day and night. I don't know why they didn't choose to manufacture this with some kind of opening somewhere to let sound flow. Yeah, once it hits above 79, it just seems to lock itself where it flashes like that. So that's I think that's just a problem with the decimal meter. I know I had problems before, but I trust that output. 79, I mean, that's actually pretty low. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. So I'm going to come back and hopefully the decimal meter will work. It will be in the same location. I've pieces of tape, and then where it necks here is right against this edge, and I'll make sure that the car is right in the center the way it is now, where we got the reading of 79. So we'll see what happens after I open that bottom up. I'm doing this little update to show, I had mentioned that you have to, if you want sound out of this thing, you have to open the bottom of this chamber where the speaker goes. And I don't think I realized that it wasn't too hard to use something. I think this is a type of chisel, and carefully go under and it's got little places where it's stuck in there. Of course it's glued, but it's not bad, and if you now break off a nub or two, that's not a big deal. And I see white here and here, so I'm assuming I did. So I'll just go back and put just a tiny dab of glue around those spots. But what it did is it allowed all this delicate parts to be completely out of my way. And so I drilled a hole as center as I could and used, I believe it's a 1/4 inch mill. But before I took it off and this bottom was on, I used the two beams that straddle the center as a marking. So when I had this on there, I got on backward, but I think you can catch my drift without me putting it all the way back together, because it's in the middle, and when it sits down on there, I was able to, I used, I think down here, just to make it easier, just scribed 2 lines so I would know where those beams go over, and then I just drilled a hole big enough for my smallest mill bit and just kind of started going back and forth. Now I did it from the top because that way I can see how far I could go. That's a pretty good size slot. So I don't think I did it that way the first time. I think I left this on here, but I wouldn't. Now that I know that can be popped off, it's just way too fragile. In my case, this end, I stuck in a vise. Yeah, and I held it as high up as I could. And I wrapped something around it, like a paper towel, so I could clamp down and not damage it. And then just drilled my hole that way. And then once it was big enough, kept going up in drill sizes until I was on those scribed lines. Now they're not there anymore because I kind of went right up to it or slightly beyond it and just kind of went back and forth, and then I could see where I need to stop and just work the mill back and forth till I had a slot. But if all you're going to do is drill holes, then that's exactly what you can do. Just take paper towel, put it in a vise, and blow you some holes through there. If you go the full width, I mean, you can, but it's not going to give any more sound because the plastic's going to cover it. So that's about as much sound as you're going to get, but I know it's going to sound like between day and night. So anyway, I'm getting ready to, and I painted it because it was going to look silver, so I just painted it black. I don't have this blue color, so that way it won't stand out when it's reassembled. Not that many people are going to look under it. Anyway, I just wanted to add that in there, so because this video is not going to be near as long as the other one. The other one covers everything. This, I'm just covering a few basic type of things. I got my lights in both ends. It was a little tricky, but because I have that in the center, they have a piece that needs to pop out, and it goes down and over and down above the doorway, and you just have to have patience on those. You really do. And then the same thing on the other side. I like to do my LED, like if this was the LED, put my wires on, both wires on, and then come straight off. And then when I drill the hole in the end, I take the wires, I put a little bit of CA on the back side, and then the side that the LED is facing, it actually goes into the hole a little bit, and then I clamp it down with one of these and let it hold, and then I'll come back and add a little bit more to kind of strengthen it. And it's a little hard to see, but when the wires come through, they do kind of a zigzag. They go in one direction, and then I bend it over hard where the CA, that's a pretty good angle right there. So you can see where it comes up and over. So that little piece that's meant for the light pipe, which if you've got one of the ones that came with lights on the end, you know what I'm talking about. It sucks. And I've got a video on how to upgrade that. But I wanted total control over this time. So when I had that piece in the center off, I snipped the very end. Try to do this without damaging something. Yeah, the very end comes right up to the back of this. And I would highly recommend doing it the way I did it, and don't, just snip a tiny bit off. If you can see, I know it showed up at some point, there's a little circle like from an injector pin when it was molded, and I just snipped it right at the far right side of the where that circle is, and that gave me plenty of room. And I don't have the exact yellow, so I just used what was close, and then just fed the wires through inside. It's got that little box there. It's meant for their LED that's actually on a board. So I slide the wires in and just use small tweezers to pull those up. The ground goes here and here. These are 47K on each one of these. So it's function 3 and 4, just the way I did it before. I might want to remap that, because Soundcar, when I turn on the end lights, it's 5 and 6. So I'll have to look into how to remap that. And I'm not picking up any power off the board. They originally came off the end. But when you use that power off the end, it's already has gone through a resistor on this board. And that's another problem. It's just not enough power. So I've got the current keeper 2, and it's plugged in. I always like to pinch between because this was off, it wasn't snapped on. I like to hold it where it's, like pinched and held in place when I slide in the connector. It's never happened, but I've been told if you're not careful, that plug can snap right off the board. It's not held by a whole lot. So, but anyway, the blue wire is full power. Just like on most decoders, you have 13 to 14 volts. So whatever I'm getting, that's where it's at. So I snipped that and tied in both my positives from the LEDs, and then soldered it all back together with a little piece of shrink tube on there. And then it's hiding right now. And there's the current keeper. I couldn't use the regular one because these things, until you get it in your hand, this isn't going to really do it justice, I don't think. But once you have it apart and you're looking at it like this, it's like, oh, it's tiny. So I'll have it sitting in this area somewhere. These 2 screw holes ties into this, so it's not dependent on just glue to hold it. So anyway, I can have it overlap that slightly, the current keeper, and then I let the wires come straight up through here. So when the truck rotates, it's not hindered on anything. I painted the red wire black. I think the last time I just replaced it, but I was painting stuff, and I thought, yeah, I'll just cover it. Because you could see the red through the windows, especially when the lights are on. There's 3 lights under here. You can kind of see that orangish kind of looking thing. The one in the middle doesn't do all that much because, this is sticking up. And it's actually quite bright, but when it's all assembled, it looks good. It looks what I would think is prototypical. And since it's coming through those plastic holes, they almost simulate like a metal lampshade type thing that you'd find in like something industrial. So I like the looks of that. Anyway, I'm going to get this back together, and then really all I have to do is button up some loose ends, re-solder my pickups on each end, these two, and it says under it as well. You got positive speaker and negative speaker. Oh, and it came with a pack, and I don't have it right in front of me, but they're the tiny little marker lights that go kind of in the upper corners. So I'll have to find out. I'll take my caliper and find out what the diameter is on there. And they don't give you, and I really wish they would have, they don't give any kind of indent or anything. So I'm probably just going to have to very carefully use my calipers so I get consistency. But somewhere up in this area, I'll drill a tiny hole in each corner on both sides and go ahead and glue those marker lights in. They're non-functional. They're mainly for looks. And if it was on the prototype, I'm actually surprised they didn't just go ahead and put it on there. But they didn't. And it comes with one pair of the roller bearing. So if you lose it, you can see, yeah, the bearing spins. But they just stick on the end of the axle there, and they can come off kind of easily. So I think that's why they give you a pair in case you lose any. I'll probably carefully snap those off and give it a light pull to make sure they're on good. Because there's many times I've come across these models, and the more detail you get, it's like the more can either be damaged or fall off or whatever. So in this case, I probably will go ahead and, before I put those on, make sure those are on tight. And if not, just put a tiny bit of CA and stick it back on, because it goes through like this. You can see it. It's like a very thin axle that goes through there. And this is your brass that makes contact with that. So you don't want to like try to oil that or get glue on that part, because then it's not going to want to make a good contact. I think it's essential to have this current keeper, no matter what. If you're just watching this video and you're like, I'm not going to mess with the lights on the end, then I would still suggest getting this current keeper. It's the current keeper 2. And I want to paint it black, and I'm going to stick it in an area where it's the darkest inside. Because that way when you hit any kind of dirty track, your sound and or lights won't cut out. And that's really important to me. All my sound cars, all my locomotives have the current keeper on it. And you can lift one of these cars off the track and it'll go for another 10 or 15 seconds before it'll shut off. The engines won't go as long because it uses a lot of power to keep the motor running, but it's still at least a couple seconds. I'd say 2 or 3, and that's good. So anyway, I would highly recommend that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I think the last thing I'll do, I want to try to get a decibel reading off this when it's done. But if not, I'm just going to have to take a before and after edit it and slap them both together so you can hear the difference. Because that decimal meter is just not wanting to cooperate. Yeah, we got a level of 79 out of it in that position. And it would be awesome if it would work just for a few more seconds to, it'll be the exact same setup, but now with a slot in the bottom. Because that's what I'm really trying to convey here, is without that slot, that speaker, and that's the side that's the diaphragm side, or the cone, or whatever you want to call it, is the surface that's moving. This is solid. So it's pumping air into a channel and it can't really go anywhere. It's completely muffled. It sounded much louder when I took the top off, but you're not going to run it without the top on. So anyway, yeah, let me button this up and we'll revisit it. And like I said, hopefully I can get a reading off it, because that's what this video is all about. I've got another one that shows me doing upgrades to, I think it was, I might be wrong, the C3930. And that one came with the lights on the end. So if you have one with the lights on the end and you're not happy with that and or the sound, and they only made one of those, and then they reran them. I didn't know that. They reran them. And this was one from the rerun, and they had gotten this correct on that, where it's white on the background and the tracks are black. Before it was vice versa. It was black in the background with white tracks. And I know at least someone that had like changed the numbers and found a decal to be able to put over that. And he did some custom stuff to his. It's pretty neat. But so yeah, I like this one. All the other ones had like Chessie system on this side, no safety logo, and the main cat logo was over here. There's just a Chessie system with nothing up here, and then the logo on both sides. I didn't really care for that. So like I said, I'll put in the description what model number this was. All right, so I've got it back together. And I've been having all kinds of trouble with this decimal meter. It is definitely going in the trash. But a few whacks on the side of the board here, and it looks like it's working. So I got it set at 90. Before, with this in the same place, right there, and the car in the same place, the only difference is there's a slot in there. If you'll remember, before, the max I could get out of it was 79. Now let's see what it sounds like with the slot in there. Now, I'm sure that would get annoying to other people on the layout, but we're just doing a test here. I saw as high as 98. That is a huge difference. I will take that. You can actually hear it clickety-clacking down the rails now, where before it was, you had to be almost right up to it. Apply the brakes. let the brake, turn it down. I put in a brake rate of 64 because that's what's in my locomotives. So when I hit the train brake, the sound will stop when the locomotive stops. It's a very cool feature. So when I apply the brakes, it's kind of a time thing, I guess. But like I said, the engine and the caboose have the same numbers of 64. That can go all the way up to 255 if you got like a really long train and you want all the cars, sound cars, to stop, the brakes squeal at the same time that the engine stops. Then you could, if it's a really long train, you could bump that number up, but you'd have to do it and it's got to be a tsunami too. You bump that up to a number, and right now I think I got it at 48. That's why it doesn't squeal too long. And then, like I said, same's in the trains, so they work together. Not sure what other. Oh, okay, yeah, coupler. Yeah, that's brake release. That's I think that's when that air hose breaks free from another car. Yeah. And then there's your couple again. That sounds like a mechanical reefer to me. I know before I said it's a generator, but I don't think you're going to hear that. It may even be an AC unit, but this one doesn't have one, so probably won't be using that. I'm pretty sure 7 just dims the lights, but right now I've got the interior lights. I don't know if I can catch that. Okay, there's one right above the C in Chessie. So there's 3 of them that go across. There's another one in the center under the B&O. And, well, there's no window there, so I can't show that one. But we've got our lights on the end here. Let's see if I tone that down a bit. Yeah, that's a bit more realistic. It is. That's as far as I can turn my exposure down, but in person it's not that bright. It's a little dimmer than what you're seeing here. I know they're not meant to be that bright. And you can go in and change your, well, you do have to go in and tell it that it's Fred. And then the other thing was under CV59, I think I put 8. There was a 4 in there before, and that was just flashing a bit too fast. So you can go from, I think, 1 to 15 on CV59. So I like that. It might still be a hair fast, but I'm almost right in the middle, so I've got all kinds of control there. There are 2 other tabs that are outputs on the decoder, and all my other sound cars use the function 5 and 6 to turn on the end lights, where this one is 3 and 4, and so I'll either see if I can move those tabs over, but I'll have to look into that, because right now function 5 turns on the interior lights, but I know you can map. So it's a question of, do I just map and not move the 2 wires over, map everything, or move the 2 wires over and then just remap the interior light to a different number. So yeah, that's it. I mean, I'll give it one more blast if it's still working. I'm serious, this thing's going in the trash. Yeah. I had put one on my phone, like a decimal type meter, but I wanted to keep everything consistent, and a decimal meter on a phone is not, it's very subjective. It's not going to be anywhere near something like this. It's a heck of a lot more accurate. I didn't have the C weighting for the sound setting, so I'm glad I got it to work for this. And that's about all I can think of. So, I mean, that's, what is the difference? Almost 20 decibels? Yeah, 19 decibels louder. And that is really crazy. Like I said, I think I'll take a little short snippet of before and after when I edit this, and I'm going to put it right at the very end, and that'll be the end of the video. And I'm holding the phone at approximately the same distance, but you see now that if you have one of these, it's imperative to open up the bottom of these. And I showed how to do it. So if you got a vise, I mean, you can just hold the piece, just drill some holes in there, and let that sound get out. You see what I'm talking about now. All right, well, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps some people, either that want to put it lights in, or my other video where I show how to brighten the factory lights. This one was kind of a hybrid of both, where I'd added lights on the end of a series of special Atlas wide vision, I think that's what they're called, wide vision cabooses. And those I had to buy sound card decoders and the speaker and everything. This one already had the special decoder that comes from Soundtracks and then is factory installed. So it's a little different, but I cover it in my other video of how to get your lights brighter. But if you don't have lights, now you've seen how to do it. You just have to be careful and have patience when you're taking these parts off, so there's not much damage. And once you get it all back together, I mean, I love it. This one I'm keeping. The last one, I don't know, kind of missed it after I sold it, because I don't have any other caboose that has just the flat top on it like that. So I'll be hanging on to this one. All right, like I said, I hope it helps. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And thanks for watching. Okay, so it looks about, what, 78, 79? 79.